Thank you. I now recognize the Vice Chairman of the committee, Mr. Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here. We appreciate your service. A lot of us have had an opportunity to work with you over the years. I want to touch on two things and have a little bit of a conversation. IMF came out a couple of days ago with a report. They're very concerned about where we're at financially. My background before I got here, 30 years in business, a lot of entities, basically hundreds and hundreds of balance sheets and income statements. I'm very concerned as well, because at some point, 49 out of 50 governors have to balance the budget. You can't continue down this road. Now, they're concerned because our deficit this year went from 1.4 trillion last year to 1.7. Interest on the debt, as you know, is close to $1 trillion. I've been here long enough, not quite 20 years, but been here long enough to clearly know that in the last 20 years, it's over $20 trillion in debt. There's a lot of finger pointing going on, but we need to find a way to work together. It's got to be dealt with at some point. I know you've laid something out, but I've heard these stories, not so much from you, but others, about pretty pictures down the road. But I look around the room here, and I have 10 grandkids, and I look around the room, there's a lot of kids in here under 30, and we're spending their money, and we got to get very real about it. If you're in the state of Florida, one thing they have to do is pass a balanced budget amendment. That's the only thing they have to do, but they have to do that. And by the way, 49 out of 50 governors have to do the same thing. So I guess I ask you, what's your feeling about the IMF and their report a couple of days ago where they're very concerned about where we're at financially and where we're going?
Well, I would say I'm not terribly concerned about where we are, but I do have concern about where we're going unless we undertake some significant steps to reduce the budget deficit. And if you look at the president's 2025 budget, you'll see that he's proposed $3 trillion in measures to reduce the deficit over the next decade. I think that's important.
Let me ask you, Madam
what
Secretary.
it does is it keeps a key metric of the burden of the debt, which is real net interest that we have to pay on the debt.
I'm limited on my time. I want to get to this other question. You've talked about nobody paying any taxes above 400. I was chairman of the Florida Chamber, 130,000 businesses in the chamber, and I'd say 95% were pass-through entities. You're talking about letting that sunset. So what that means, so you understand, if someone's got 200-300 employees or 50 employees, you could very well be at 53%, 54% taxes all in, because the pass-through rate would go back to 39.6. There's a 3.2, and then if you look at states, I hate to say it, California and New York and some of the other states are great states, but they have another 10, 15% tax on top of it. So pass-through entities could very well, and then you're looking to get rid of 199A, could very well be north of 50%. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the president is committed to ensuring that no family, including those with pass-through businesses making under $400,000, would see their tax increase. But he does believe, for the sake of tax fairness, that it is appropriate for wealthy individuals and corporations to pay more.
I've been in the real world in terms of building businesses and everything else. You might have 60, 80, 90 employees, you make 600, but then you got to give up half of it or a good portion of it. Just 400 is nothing if you're trying to build a business, small and large. I'm not talking about large corporations, I'm talking about small business. And it'll be a huge burden on these entities, from that standpoint. So I'm just telling you, if I look across Florida, a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses, yeah, they do make 600, but they don't take home 600. They take home 100, 150, 200. They leave the capital in there to grow and build their business. That's the reality about where that's at. What's your thoughts?
Well, as I said, I think the president feels it is important to tax those who are earning very high incomes at higher rates.
One big thing is 199A. Where are you at on that in terms of whether you're going to let that sunset? 199A is at 20% for a pass-through entity.
I'm not, I need to get back to you on that.
Yeah, well, let me know, because that's very critically important. We went for corporate rates 35 to 21, but you can't have pass-through rates at 40%. It makes no sense, because everybody's going to move to a C corp. With that, I yield back.